I was scrolling through my Facebook feed a few minutes ago and I ran across this ad, which kind of jumped out at me because I do a lot of hiring on Upwork. But once I realized what the ad was for, I realized that this ad in the software they're advertising was for something that has really kind of given me a headache and mucked things up for me as a buyer hiring on Upwork. And I actually went with somebody that was certainly not using this software or this type of software, whether it's this one or one of their competitors. So if you're out there and you're trying to get more projects on Upwork or you're doing some hiring on Upwork, you'll probably find this video here in my story quite helpful and insightful. So let's start by taking a look at the ad so we understand exactly what they're advertising for and offering. Right in the page title, we can see AI. And then down here, we can see one-click proposal generation using a Chrome extension, and then AI proposal templates tailored to you and the job. So my understanding is that this software takes a look at the job posting on Upwork and then uses AI to create a custom proposal, right? Incorporating the verbiage and kind of tone and other details of the post. Create the custom proposal that gets sent off with your bid for the project. Now, I don't know if this is the only company out there in the space or if there are multiple competitors, but either way, fundamentally, this software could have been, what was behind the experience I'm going to share in my story here. So let's shift gears to that. A few weeks ago, I needed to hire a developer for a very, very complex web project, like the most complex project I have ever thought about outsourcing. Far, far, far more complex than just build a basic website. It involved a bunch of API integrations, lead distribution and lead routing, sending partial data, receiving partial responses, matching that up with, the partial data that was sent, adding more data to it, sending back, getting another partial response, all while the user is engaged and active on a page. Very complex stuff, but it needs to be done for my business or one of my businesses to be compliant with some upcoming regulation that takes effect January 1, 2025. So it needed to be done. And I had initially actually gone to some developers I'd worked with before on some pretty complex projects. And they're like, yeah, no, this is too complicated. We don't want any part of this. So off to Upwork I go. I make a job post with a $10,000 budget on there. And pretty quickly, I get 50 applications, more than 50 applications were submitted on there. And I start reviewing them. And I'm reviewing the proposals. And many of them sound very good, and they're clearly custom tailored to this job post, talking about the softwares and the APIs and yada, yada, yada. All right, so I start going through and scheduling calls with the freelancers on Upwork who had submitted these proposals, and I'm having these calls, and they were very difficult. They did not seem like this person was familiar with the software and the scope of work and all that, right? Like they seemed damn near bamboozled by that. And often, we'd have a call, hang up, they would go off and review the thing, or probably review my job posting again. And we'd have another call, and it was just not going anywhere because they just didn't understand it. Yet in their proposal, it seemed like they understand it. The proposal would be like, I have 10 years of experience with API integrations and this software, and I've thoroughly reviewed the documentation of XYZ API, and I understand what it can do and its limitations and how we can use it to successfully implement the scope of work you have described, right? Stuff like that. So I'm kind of, thinking of my experience and how these developers that I'm getting on the phone with are just kind of puzzled by it, yet that's different than their proposals. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, they're all using, damn near all of them, are using some type of AI to generate their proposal on Upwork, right? And that's a problem. That was a complete problem. They're just using that to batch send off these proposals. They could have been using this. I don't know if they were or not. They could have just been, copy and pasting through ChatGPT and pushing something back. But ultimately, it was just incredibly frustrating because they're sending these proposals that exude confidence when they should not even be considering this project to begin with. And ultimately, I went with a freelancer then who had a very short and natural response. Because if I go back, take a step back here, the proposals that were being sent and were clearly AI generated were not natural. right? They just, nobody would say, I'm technically equipped, with my 10 years of experience to handle this project, and I've thoroughly reviewed the API of blank and I'm familiar with its scope and limitations. Nobody would speak and naturally say that. Nobody actually with experience or that had read the job description would just say that. They would have came back with either, A, I've looked at this and I understand what you're trying to do here and it can be done, I believe, or B, they would have came back with more questions like, so just let me clarify. And the person that I went with had a very short response, clearly not AI generated, that basically said, hey, I've taken a look at this. I believe it can be done. Let's schedule a call here to kind of square things up. That was the person I went with. So if you're out there and you're considering using AI to get more work on Upwork or some type of software as a service like this one, well, you might want to consider that in a world where everybody's doing that and it's generating such unnatural, quite frankly, bullshit, having an actual natural and genuine proposal with your bid will stand out more. And in my cases, that's what I'm going to be looking for. And if you're out there hiring people on Upwork, consider that most of them are probably going to be using AI in some way anyways. So before you even schedule a call, either A, be like, hey, did you actually look at this or was this AI written? I may actually send that off going forward just to get people to seriously review my job postings before scheduling a call. Or B, looking for people that actually have a natural response to your job posting. On that note, guys, I hope you found this video helpful and insightful. If you did, you know the drill. Smash that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. I'm calling it a wrap and signing off on that note.